Yep.
Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, October 30th, and our continuing book study on how to sell network marketing without fear, anxiety, or losing your friends by Michael Oliver. And really what I love about this book, it isn't just selling network marketing, it is sales and relationships. It's how to have meaningful conversations with people that's below the surface. So it's teaching us how to get beyond just the tip of the iceberg and get below the surface into some really meaningful conversations and really understanding a person. And by doing that, we're able to understand how we could possibly provide them a solution to maybe some of the problems that they're having, or maybe not. So we're continuing on chapter 12. Phyllis is going to lead us in the remaining review of chapter 12, which is really the meatiest chapter in this book. We're really
Should be chapter 1.
To asking the right questions. So Phyllis, take it away.
All right. So we had finished last week then talking about, excuse me, our reflection questions, and really what the two truths. What do you like and what don't you like? So really what we're doing here is helping people, like Sheila say, is to really pay attention and help people to really maybe remember or take the time to reflect, why do I like what I'm doing? Or why do I like, where I live, what kind of work I have, that sort of thing, and helping people to really understand and pay attention to that. So that would be the one path. Why do you love where you work? Well, for myself, it's because I like people. I like people to feel good about themselves. I like the kids in grade 4 to feel good about themselves. And when we feel good about ourselves, we're more open to ideas, and we're also more willing to work. Because it is, as some people say, network marketing. So the one path of why you like something, and the other path of why don't you like it. And so really this, as much as I like to be on the positive end of things, we'll always have a drive and a need for a desire for expansion and more in life. That's just the nature of the human mind, is always looking to experience and have life to be something of enjoyment. And so naturally that starts with what don't I like, or what's not working for me. And so really when we understand the reasons behind that and help people to understand the reasons behind that, then that's when really the discovery phase comes in. And we are getting at the deeper feeling question. With some practice, we get more comfortable with it. At first, it feels uncomfortable because it can feel a bit invasive. But really, when we're coming from our heart and paying attention to their responses, then we know as the trust level goes up, people are more willing to go deeper. Trust is a real deep one. And initially, you'll get, maybe kind of superficial responses, and really it's going underneath that. Or not necessarily underneath it, but just recognizing for themselves on a day-to-day basis how it affects them by not living more of the lifestyle or the life that they would like in all three areas. Both time, money, and health. All are equally important. And so some of those lead into, so Sheila, we'll move on to the next slide there, please.
I just wanted to say that I wish I would have read page 198 before I went to the USONA convention, because on my way down to the USONA convention on the airplane, I sat beside a man who was working at his job probably for 20-some years. I said, "Oh, do you like what you do?" He said, "Oh, I love what I do." It's like, ooh, okay, now what do I say? Now I'm roadblocked. So, so really what he's saying here is like what I should have said, continued on, oh, what do you like about it? And then why do you like it?
Mm-hmm.
Then what do you like about that? And then why do you like that? And drill down. And then I love this transition question. What would you change about your job if you could?
Right.
What would you change about your job if you could? And that was the missing transition question in my brain after he said he liked his job. And so what would you change about your job if you could? So I'll be more prepared for next conversation.
And then following that with, and so why would you change it? Why would you change it in that way? Yeah, I could ask that actually about the fellow that has Doug with his 28 years with his own business and the parts with motorhomes and such. Although he's at a point where he doesn't love it so much, but But even then, there's aspects that people do love about it, and so that's important too. And in tying that into how you sauna is a natural fit, can be a natural fit for them. So
Or it may not be.
Or it may not be. That's right, because that's important too. And that's one thing I've admired. Not sure where I've picked it up from is if you're getting a feeling that a person, it's not a fit, be okay with it. Got to be okay with it, because especially if you think about the fact of referrals. So if they felt comfortable and trusting of you, know, like, and trust you ourselves, then they're more likely to open up, but also to give us referrals.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if it's not a fit for them, they're more likely to say, yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation here. Absolutely. And not just, do you know anyone? Because that's also too broad spectrum. Who do you know that also loves to work with people? Or who do you know that would love to, have the amount of time that you have because of the job that you may like? Or what we're looking for more is what you don't like. Who else do you know that would really love to make a change in their career? So more specific when we're asking referrals. And so I'm still remembering to think about that for myself, referrals, expanding my list. So clarifying questions and the consequence questions then, I guess it's the, clarifying, oh, here we are, consequence question. So looking just at the bottom, page 203 here, we've got, what if you didn't do anything and the situation got worse? That's kind of a tough question to ask someone, not really a comfortable one.
Yeah.
But an important one here. So possible consequences. So what if you didn't have that? What if, how would it, and then again, taking it right into their own life experience. Giving, let's see, an example might be, what if you didn't have, let's say from the additional time to be with your family. Like our neighbor, she was a new job working over 80 hours a week, and she just thought, great, I'm paid great, but that is too much time. And so she basically had to take a look at it and think, okay, maybe I make great money, but that is way, way too much time. And so if she didn't have the time, what it does is it affects her relationship with her new husband. And then, you can continue on from there and say, what are some of the things you guys love to do that you're not able to do now? So it pulls in the emotions. Very important. So like he says on page 204 here, if you leave the present situation unresolved, he's got a question here, some of the opening consequence questions. So on page 205, make note, here's a list of some of his questions. What will happen if? Or what if it didn't work out? How would you feel if you weren't able to ski as much as you like because of your hip or because of your knee? And or does that concern you? Because what we think may concern someone may not for someone else. They say, that's not the big deal, but what I really want here is I want the time, more time with my family or with my husband. Even if you think, it's all about the knee, don't make assumptions. There's a good key phrase, don't make assumptions. That's easy for us to do because we come from our own perspective. So with practice, we'll become much more present. And that's the thing I really liked when I'm in a mode of doing more presentations, my enjoyment of them goes up because I become more and more present, not quite so much focused on getting the information to them about USANA, but understanding them. And because I'm more present, I can read more between the lines. I become better at it. And then it becomes quite exciting because it's like, oh, that was so interesting. And even if we say that to people, that's really interesting. That's tough. And so what, so what if you can do that? How is that actually going to affect you? And it can be just literally even that week, or you can project it to later in the year or 5 years from now or down the road, so to speak. How would that be if you're not able to have that or not able to experience it? So this is a really big part. This is the stick, right? We've got the carrot and the stick. So we've taken it to the point here where we found an area that they would like to improve in their lives. And now we're to the point where we're going to ask some solution questions. And so then what we do is we're, from the answers that they've given us, we're taking those answers and those ideas and we incorporate them into USANA, the upside of the solving questions. So what's really interesting here too, he says that when we ask solution questions, they make us shine, because then people's mood lifts from one of like, oh, that's kind of heavy, that's not really working in my life. And a lot of people might think, I don't really want to think about that. I'm just going to ignore that. I think that's super common. Have you guys found that at all? That at times, they want to just, that's pretty common. I think people want to kind of ignore what's not comfortable.
Well, yeah. I mean, to tell you the truth, I generally don't probe this deep and ask them what they like and what they don't like and why don't they like it and why don't they like that. And it just feels a little uncomfortable for me. And you said that earlier, because it feels like I'm intruding in their personal life. And people generally aren't, people's conversations generally are very superficial, even with friends. So, and it's not that it's good or bad. I know I've had people who have been good listeners and ask questions. And when they ask these deeper questions, you kind of stop and think like, oh, well, what don't I like? And, ooh, you're right. I really don't want to think about what I don't like or talk about it. And you want to keep it higher level. So yes, I agree. Most of the time, people aren't asked these questions. And if they are, they may not want to go in that deep and talk about the negative. They rather maybe live in the land of denial because they think there's nothing else that can be done or changed or.
Yes. And two, why is a pretty strong word. And so you could soften it maybe by saying, now I'm kind of curious about that. Can you tell me a little more about how that's affecting you? Rather than just coming out, so why? Or why? I mean, you wouldn't just come out with why, but
So it doesn't feel like an interrogation.
Yeah, and that's important too. Like just relax with it and pay attention. If you want to make a little note on your paper or something, you can write it down. I like to keep, a piece of paper beside me so that I can jot things down. That keeps me present so that I don't have to remember, oh, no, what was he saying about this? Or what was she saying about that? Even just one word. And some people, I think, I believe that it's Eric Worre that suggests, you can ask their permission or just state, I'm just going to make a couple of notes here because what you're saying is important. And that way then I can really be present with where we're at in our conversation here.
One of the things that you had mentioned is saying, you said, I'm just curious, how does that affect you? And phrasing it that way, the why questions will generate a very emotional and often negative reaction. So instead of asking, the why, I like what you had said is, I'm just curious, how would this affect you? So it's so instead of saying, why would that affect you, or
right,
just soften it that little bit more by eliminating the word why.
And there might be times when why comes out easily, but it's through the repetition. But I agree with you. Yeah.
Most times why will just sort of like, it's like watching a kid drag a rotten tomato across the floor. Why did you do that? Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time, that why, it just stops people cold. And like I said, it'll often generate an emotional response rather than a logical response.
Yes, or a it can potentially. Now remember too, when we actually, another idea around that, Adeline, is when we know the positive. So I'll just think of my neighbor, let's say as an example, and her issue being around time, the amount of time putting into her work because she's so good and she's very particular. Tie in the fact that now you and Walter have an awesome relationship. So pulling that positive part. And you're saying by not having the time, now what's beautiful is that you are in a great relationship. So how can you see that improving it, and why is that so important to you? So maybe tying in the positive part of it. So say if they were able to ski, or they're recognize that they have the money, but it is not residually based. And they pull out some of the things, what they love about being able to have that income, and then tying that into, but if you weren't working and didn't have money coming through that method, would you still have the same amount of money coming in? And how would that affect you if not? So maybe tying in the good, positive in with the other end of the stick. And so then they're focusing on both ends, but remembering, well, this is a good part of it. So he's saying here that solution questions can be asked at any time, even after your presentation. And they come in different forms depending on the context and situations. Now, this is kind of a straightforward question here, too, at the bottom of 207. So what have you done about it, if anything? Personally, I would take off the if anything. That's a little bit of an insult to me. So what solutions have you looked at, or what have you tried so far? And our tone is also really important. Tone is a big factor when we're asking why, or questions to help understand, being curious. Be really present. Remember that you're there to see if this is a fit for them, not to get all the information out. And at times, maybe if we're getting deeper with it, then we may need to set up another meetup time rather than trying to squish in. Sometimes I've tried to squish in the end of a presentation. So at times I'll kind of do a check-in to say, how are we doing for time for ourselves? I've got probably 6 more minutes. Okay, great. Let's sum it up here. And it gives me an opportunity to reflect and bring in what I've been told and that's been shared with me into the solution of USANA.
Bill, so I like how you said more presentations you do, more relaxed you can be, because then you're comfortable and confident that you know the USANA facts and figures and how to present and all that. You have it covered, so you can relax about that and use your energy and focus on understanding the person you're with. I love how you put that. That's so, because when you're brand new, you're so kind of like, okay, I'm supposed to say this, and what about that? And you're so in your head that you don't have the capacity, not you, but people generally, to even pay attention to who they're trying to present to. So that's a very good point. Once you do enough presentations, even practice at home, that you are confident that you will have the information and be able to present it in a very flexible form to meet the needs of the person you're with.
Right. And just that basis too, it's like when we speak in front of, whether it's people or even one-to-one, we are speaking in front of people, public speaking. Like you say, just we don't have to be perfect. And we can even say that to the other person. It's like, look, I'm kind of new at this, or I've drawn a line in the sand here. I'm really wanting to be paying attention, and I got a little distracted. Just want to say, can you repeat that, please? So when I take the pressure off, it's so much more enjoyable. And just, they join, they don't join, have an expectation that we have something to offer them, knowing that we do, but just relax. And then that lets other people know too that we're not looking for, and it's found too, even with video, Sheila, you probably know this, that I'm looking at doing a video. I think I'm going to do a short one on drawing a line in the sand. I think that's going to be my topic for my first video. So I'm getting encouragement from Nick Petrick, a hot young 24-year-old that has building his business through Best Mind and young teenagers, and helping them to be successful entrepreneurs by the time they're 25. So he's like, why are you setting such a late date for your video? And I'm like, well, I want to make sure I know what to do and how to say it. And he says, that's just fear there, girl. So I haven't read the rest of his text yet, but... So research shows that the best salespeople ask way more solution questions than the average performer. And like I said, the solution questions make us shine, because when we're providing a solution, then they're going from like, oh, this doesn't feel good, to like, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, I could see there's a possibility. We're just getting kind of an inkling of getting them their mind thinking, oh, okay, well, I could see that, and letting them know it's a skill development. It's not a magic thing, and some people are better than others. We all come in with different skill sets and different experiences, but we can all learn how to do it. Everyone is able to, and each of us in our own way. So you can see here too, just asking them, really, does it concern you by not having that, experiencing that solution, or still having that problem in your life? And to me, have you thought about how it will affect? So to me, when he's saying solution questions, you still are kind of getting into how the solution is, well, it's the answer, one of the answers for them to consider. All right, let's see if there's another slide there, Sheila. Okay, so again, here showing what they're wanting. Let's just take a flip here. So probing deeper here on page 210. So getting people really to expand in their responses to the solution questions. So why is that important to you? So I've been thinking about that with Steve and his weight. And I thought, really, I think he's getting support from some of his other people, his friends and such, and so he's making changes in that way. But I thought, some of the questions here really are, so why is it important to you to lose some weight? What is it that's motivating you to want to lose some weight? And then that brings up the whole idea of be quiet. Don't fill the space. Just be relaxed and let them think about it. And then it might evolve throughout the conversation or throughout the presentation too. So when we're discovering too why it's important, and how do you see the benefits of being able to solve that? I see I'm missing a word there. Now that's a good one. How do you see, or what benefits do you see by having that? Gaining some additional time in your life, or losing even 15 pounds. How will that feel to you? So there's a good feel one as well, because, really as a society, we're growing, ideally, in not so much our IQ, it's our EQ, our emotional quotient, that determines our quality of life. And being comfortable with our feelings and recognizing them and realizing, hey, yeah, that doesn't actually feel that good, and I am ready to make a change here. So here, most important is in their own words. Excuse me. So it's got exclamations, because if we're saying it for them, which I know I have done at times, and I've apologized to people before and said, hey, I feel like I'm kind of almost putting words in your mouth here. Apologize for that. So tell me in your words, why is that important to you? And let them say it in their own words. Are you prepared to change the present situation to get what you want?
Ah, that's a powerful one, because they may not be prepared to change the situation. Maybe they would like to lose 15 pounds. They thought about it. It would be great. They would feel better, but they may not want to change.
Well, and really, if you think about it,
to change.
Yeah, and what is change? Maybe that's something that would be good to explore some with people. Sometimes change feels like, okay, well, that's huge. But really, if you look at it and say, well, if you think of an elephant, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So I can't imagine eating an elephant, but it's one bite at a time. So change and that raise in confidence. So that is another one that we can bring up for people too, and saying you may really notice a change in your confidence. Your confidence can go up. Just making a decision to say, you know what, I'm ready to consider it. Maybe that's where they're at. They may not be ready for a whole no whites, no pasta, no potatoes, but they may be ready to start thinking about it and considering it and watching a video. I'll start there. All right, so summarizing here, and as we can see, so this is like a really long chapter. So he gives us, what's really nice is he gives us a summary. So he's talking about here, it says page 222, but at page 219 here, he gives us a summary of the discovery stage that we're at here. So you've got your background questions, your needs and development questions. What would you change about that? Then we lead from that into the consequence question. So this is the problem, how's it affecting your life? And from there into the solution and qualifying questions. And then he gives a really great kind of different dialogues of what you can, examples to give us a range of how would that conversation go back and forth. Do you still enjoy doing it after 23 years? On one hand, I love it. But, well, you know how it is. Ah, well, what part of the job do you like most? Well, I like the fact that I work in a good restaurant and have good people appreciate my food. And then taking it, I sense that's important to you. Yes, it's nice to be recognized for the effort I put in. Anything else you like about it? And he carries on, and it goes on here for another page or so, and then he gets into, oh, is that important to you? And how do you feel about that? When he gets into some of the area that he's not as happy with as a chef, past debts he has, then he feels trapped. But you've built the truth, or the confidence, not the confidence, but confidence in yourself and the other person to trust you. Because trust is such a big one, and trust themselves. Maybe that's a big part of it too, is the ability to say, you know what, this is something that I can make a change, and I trust that this is a legitimate option or opportunity for me really to consider here. So once we know that they have a desire to change, then he's saying at this point is when we present our opportunity. But I think that this is, like he says, this is throughout. So those questions, though, lead up to it. And really, when we're inviting person to get together, we already need to know some of those, right? The needs, wants, and don't wants. And that's what leads into, oh, well, I know something that may be a fit for you. Don't know if it would be. It sounds like you're wanting to, travel down to Australia to visit your daughter more often, and perhaps you're looking at building up some additional income that you could do on a more regular basis, or even bring her and her fiance up here. So just overall determining, are they ready to change? Are they open to that? And bringing in what we've learned about them into the opportunity, and make sure that we tie it in or connect it in during the presentation as well. Don't just get into it, but refer back to what they've said are their challenges and what the good parts of what they like as well.
Right, actually using their words and relating their story, their needs to the USANA information we're presenting. And it's super important, because then they know they've been listened to. And
that's a good reminder. So I'm going to make notes on that, Sheila, when I'm doing my next presentation, so that I can use their words, as you said, because I feel important. It's like, wow, you're really listening.
Yes, and how few people actually truly listen. Very few. One point on page 216, I like at the top of 216, it's very important that they're always thinking what's in it for me and not what's in it for you. So the classic close, if I could show you how to do that, would you be interested? Again, by using the word if I is relating to I, the presenter, versus he's recommending to say, if there were a way you could get what you want, again, emphasizing what they want, what's in it for them.
Mm-hmm.
You keep your eyes open.
Good point, Sheila.
Very small IU, but huge difference in impact and overall meaning.
Right. And that's that basic qualifying question with Hilton Johnston.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could show you, would you?
Right.
And so then you're really qualifying them in that way. Yeah. If I could show you how to gain more time and be able to match your income of what you're making now, would that be something that is worth exploring? Or is that worth something, is that worth keeping your eyes open to seeing what possibilities there are with it? Or if I could send you a 2-minute video that gives you a very quick overview of Cocosa product for your knee, would that be something you'd be able to watch? Or you'd be interested in watching and be able to watch today? But your point really, Sheila, is going from I to it's about them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the summary. That's it.
Wow, this is a full chapter. I mean, this is really, there's a lot of content. Recommend that for all of you on the replay line to read this chapter several times. And the key is to really immerse yourself by actually taking action and practicing. It's one thing to read the book and listen to the questions and think about it. It's another thing to apply it. And so it's like learning a language. If I want to learn how to speak German, I mean, I went 5 years to school to learn how to speak German, but the fastest way would be to actually immerse myself, go to Germany and live with the German people and immerse myself in it. So same thing at this. I mean, the way to really learn it is to immerse yourself. So, practice every day. Even forget the outcome. Just practice listening and asking the questions and understanding a person and building the trust, and just practice. And I find if you kind of let go of the outcome, Adeline, if you're out there and you're meeting people, don't worry about the outcome. Just practice the process and just to get comfortable with it.
And what's a thought too, Sheila, is it's occurred to me to, I've got some index cards. I'm going to take some of the key questions that I resonate with, or think that others will, write them on index cards and keep them in my, either in my purse or in my bag. And then I can pull them out, and the more I review them, it's like, oh yeah, so maybe I want to focus on the qualifying questions, or maybe I want to focus on one aspect of it. But I'm going to do a cue card for each of those question areas, and then by pulling it out, even in the morning, my mind will trigger and remember it more often. It's like, oh yeah, and with time we'll find that we're ourselves naturally asking it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great suggestion. I have a lot of Post-it notes at my desk, but you can't see, like this is one of them that I've written down, why do you want it? Why do you want it? Why is that important to you? Just to keep refreshing my memory about those what and why questions.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you, Phyllis. Excellent job. I know you have to go, so I'm going to stop the recording.